Hello, beautiful people. On today's episode of What Happens in a SOC Shift, that is Security Operations Center, as a SOC analyst, I will be walking you through step by step on how I triage an alert. Stay with me. Every single shift, when I sit down and log into my computer, the first thing I notice is a queue of security alerts. Some of them are real threats, while most of them are not. My job essentially is to figure out which is which and act timely to avoid exfiltration of data. So in this video, I will be walking you through step by step on how I triage this security alert. Thank you. First of all, I'd like us to talk about what's an alert triage. Triage comes from medicine, which means sorting by priority and severity. In a security operations center, which is also known as a SOC analyst or a SOC environment, you have a security alert or security queue can have hundreds of alerts per shift. You can't investigate all these alerts equally. So what a triage does is it helps you identify which alert requires an immediate attention, which one can wait, and what is false positive. Because the goal is to protect the business and keep it going by focusing on what is real and critical to the business. Moving on, these are the steps I take to triage an alert. The first thing I do is to read the alert. I try to read exactly what the alert is telling me. I check what triggered it, if any rule was fired, what user or system was involved. Now, I do all this just to simply understand what exactly I need to work on or what exactly I'm looking for before touching anything. The next step I take is I check the severity level. Every alert comes with a severity level. It could be critical, high, medium, or low. Now, a critical alert jumps the queue because it's unethical for me to skip past a critical alert and investigate a low. So the severity tells me what I need to work on immediately and how fast I need to move. Next, I try to gather context. This is where I get to pull up logs and investigate a little deeper just to get more information and also log into my SIEM, which is the Security Information and Event Management. I mentioned that in my last video. This includes tools like Splunk, Microsoft Sentinel, or QRadar, just to get a full picture of every activity that's been going on. Who is the user? What machine the user was on? What activity they've been doing in the last 1 hour? And also check if this alert has been fired before. Overall, context is everything. Then I correlate events. You see, one event alone usually means nothing. So what I look for is for patterns. A failed login is normal and can be normal, but a failed login followed by a successful login from a different country or location 5 minutes later is what we call impossible travel. I'll give you an example. Let's say the initial login was from Miami, and then 5 minutes later, there's a login from Houston, Texas. That's a story worth investigating. So what I do then is to connect the dots across multiple sources of logs, network, endpoint, and identity. I run it through threat intelligence tools like VirusTotal, IP abuse, to verify if this is a known malicious IP or if this IP or domain has been flagged before. This would help me validate if this is a major or well-known indicator of threat. Next, after working through all the steps to investigate, I make a decision. I decide if this is a true positive or a real threat that requires a response, or just a legitimate alert that looks suspicious, or it's a false positive, or probably a real positive that requires me escalating to a senior analyst or the threat response team. Basically, every decision I make needs to be documented. Now, the next step is, after making the decision, I make notes. Making notes is very key, a key essential in my day-to-day role, because making quality and detailed note is what separates a good analyst from a great one. This note simply involve what I found, the process I took, every log, an event I investigated and checked, and what happened if there is an incident or a threat or false positive or negative. After making all this decision, I also include my recommended action. So if this needs to be escalated later, my note would be helpful to make a more extensive or more important decision. Let me give you a real example. I once got an alert for a suspicious authentication activity. On the surface level, it looked like a normal failed login. But when I pull up the logs and correlated the event, I verified that the same account had multiple failed login on a particular IP. Then suddenly there was a successful login from a completely different geographical location. I pulled the IP on our threat intelligence tool, and then it came back flagged as a known malicious IP. And then that's when a regular routine alert check changed into a potential account compromise investigation very quickly. So that is why I don't just glance at the alert, I always go deeper. Thank you guys for staying with me. Now, this is how I triage an alert in a real security operations center environment. That's a SOC environment. Now, if you find this video helpful and you like me to go deeper into real SOC work, please drop that in the comment. I'll be posting every week to go deeper into using SOC tools and explaining how to utilize threat intelligence and how to use these tools on a day-to-day. Thank you. Like, subscribe, and share. Also comment. I love you all.